Good morning, and this is Carolyn. Thank you for joining me on Educated and Unfiltered. I had a wonderful phone call from one of my former students encouraging me to continue with my podcast post, and he has a good point. He says, you spend a lot of time, Carolyn, taking care of other people, and you've always been a great role model to school teachers, and you've always been supportive of, kids from low socioeconomic background. And two, I was one of those kids that you brought up out of poverty and supported, and now look at me. I can look back and say thank you to the lady that believed in me the most. And that really resonated with me. I really thought that was really nice of him to say that. But one thing he did recognize is that wellness has always been a part of who I am and what I stand for. And he says, continue to get out there, do your walk, but also do your testimonials and support these teachers that are out there every day in the classroom working with kids. School has just started back, and I know this can be a challenging time of school year, especially when you're trying to jump off and make sure that you're doing all the right things the first couple of weeks of school. It's always easier to pull back on classroom management and discipline than to try to instill it later when you see that the children are not, doing the things that you want them to do to stay on task. But the bottom line is make sure that you do your homework and that you're prepared every day when you walk into that classroom. That means a lot. Kids can see through whether or not you've done your homework. You're asking the children to do homework, but you're not doing the homework. Inspect what you expect. So you have to check yourself first and make sure that you're doing all the right things. There's so many articles out there today about what's going on in our classrooms and what's happening in our school systems across the country, and the children are low performing and they're not performing academically up to par. Well, a lot of that, it's not always on the teachers. Parents, you have to take some of the ownership of it too. Kids have been all summer long. You've had a chance to make sure that they were doing their reading time, less screen time on those phones and on the computers. And it is, if they are on the computers, make sure they were taking some sort of course to enhance them or to reinforce what's going to be taught during the school year. So even now, it's not too late to ensure that these kids are reading at least 30 minutes a day to help them with their instruction. You need reading for math. You need reading for science, social studies, theater. No matter what class it is, our children need to know how to read. I saw an article the other day. This young black teacher was crying because he was upset that I think they might have been freshmen, sophomore, juniors. I don't know if he was at Wheatley High School or somewhere in Houston, but I'm going to go back and take a look at that article. But he was crying and he was upset and disappointed that our children were so illiterate. But that's nothing to cry about. That's something for you to get on their butts and say, what's the matter? What's going on? Why haven't you taken care of your business? I mean, that's across the nation that these kids don't know how to read and write. It's sad and it's unconscionable because at this day and age, every child should know how to read and write. And if you don't get off your lazy butt as a student to ensure that you're getting the help that you need, or you're doing the things that you need to do for yourself to ensure that you're going to be prepared when you go to school, that's on you too. So stop blaming the teachers. Stop all this crying. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and think about what strategies are you going to use in your classroom to ensure that these children do know how to read and write. There's other things I want to talk about during my podcast. I am going to repost, and thank you. And I know he probably doesn't want me to give him his props, but his name is Philip Hodge. That kid has gone through so much. He even has a podcast out there called Little Philip. I want you guys to follow him too. But just stay tuned. I'm Carolyn with Educated and Unfiltered. I try to get out here every morning and walk at least 3 to 4 miles to make sure that my feet are firmly planted on the ground. And I'm going to stay encouraged, and I want you guys to stay encouraged. This summer, I turned Medicare age, and I was very surprised. But, some of my colleagues are disappointed. They filled out all these applications because, once you retire, that doesn't mean that you're tired. That just, you kind of step back from it for a while and reboot and refresh. And now that we've turned 65 plus and we're putting these applications in and we're not getting any phone calls or interviews, and they're wondering why. I just think maybe they've aged us out of the system. But guess what? Our brains are still working and we're still intelligent. We still know how to work with children from poverty, low socioeconomic backgrounds, any child. But the bottom line is you need to look back and bring some of these retired school teachers back, retired campus leaders back, and let us come in there and help you turn these schools around. Because somehow our young administrators, these young leaders, do not have all the tools that they need to help them be successful on their campuses, because maybe they're not getting the message out right. But the bottom line is there are teams of experts out here. We're seasoned, we're veterans, and we know what we're doing. So you guys think about that, something to ponder about this morning. I'm going to continue my workout. I'm going to sign off for now, but I'll be back later on with another podcast later. And you guys have a great day. And thank you for joining me on Educated and Unfiltered.